The E90 still has transmission issues. When I first got the car last year, I did a service on the transmission. I changed the fluid, I changed the pan with the integrated filter, and I also changed the Mechatronics sleeves, and I changed the solenoids. Turns out the sleeves and the first things had already been done. The solenoids hadn't been changed. And we were still having problems with the car. There were some codes. I forget what the codes were. You can refer back to the original video to find that out. Changing the solenoids did the trick as far as the codes, and I also had a symptom of like a slow shift from reverse to drive. It fixed that as well. The one thing that it didn't fix was sort of rough shifts, you know, especially from first to second, and then a little bit less, not as bad from second to third, and then again, not as bad from third to fourth. Really not at all from third to fourth. It's mostly the lower gears. It's just bugging me. It's not a fun drive, to tell you that. It's not a smooth, enjoyable drive, you know? It's like, it's always there. And that little thing, something like that, is gonna bug you. It's definitely bugging me. I know what it is. It's definitely problems with the transmission valve body. Every transmission valve body will end up having problems, especially when you get to higher mileages. It's just, you know, they have valves inside that are moving back and forth all the time, and they're inside of very highly machined bores, and that back and forth movement will wear the bores out. And they need to be rebuilt at that point. They make tools that will oversize the bore, and then they make oversized valves. So it's, you know, there are transmission valve body rebuilders out there, and you can find one and they'll do it. They test it and make sure that it's good. So apparently changing the solenoids is sort of like a stopgap. It's like putting a Band-Aid on the real problem. You know, the real problem is with the transmission valve body. I had a suspicion that that's what it would be when I first did this, but it's very expensive to buy a rebuilt transmission valve body, especially now with inflation. I kind of wish I had done it then. I think it would have been a little cheaper, but whatever. So we're doing it now is the point I'm trying to make. And I bought a new one. I buy from Central Valve Bodies. They're in Oklahoma, I believe. I'll put a link down in the description. I've bought from them before and it's been fine, so I'd recommend them. Yeah, so I'm just gonna go ahead and change this thing out. I'm not gonna film that procedure. That's not what this video is about. If you wanna see how to do that, remove the transmission valve body and put it back in, that's in that first video. So you can just go ahead and watch that if you want the DIY on that. This is more a video about this problem and about the solutions to the problem. So yeah, basically that's the deal. That's what's going on. I'm gonna go ahead and do it. I'm gonna swap it out now. This valve body that I got did not come with new solenoids. They just test them, and if they're bad, they will replace them. You know, a solenoid is just it's like a back and forth kind of thing. It's like an on and off. So yeah, since I have new solenoids on the one that's in here, I'm gonna swap them over because they're brand new. And then I'll put the new one in, the new valve body in, and delete the adaptations and see if that fixes the problem. So yeah, I'll come back with you when all is said and done. All right, guys, check it out. This is the old one from my car. This is the new one that I got. And so if you look on eBay, you're gonna find rebuilt transmissions, transmission valve bodies. And that's actually how I found out about Central Valve Body on like a Nissan or something. And if you look for these valve bodies for the ZF 6HP19, you will see a lot of them. They're pretty cheap. They're from $250 to $300. That's because they're all coming from China. There's some Chinese shop that's rebuilding them, and then there's like a, you know, there's 30 Chinese sellers, you know, Chinese eBay stores selling basically the same thing. You can tell because the listings all kind of look the same. And I found out the hard way that those valve bodies are not the one for my car, because when I got the part in, I noticed that I compared it to, I looked at my own video, and I compared the orientation or the order of the solenoids, and I noticed they were different. So it turns out that I have the Generation 2 valve body, and all the ones on eBay are Generation 1. So you really need to know this before you do anything, and the way you figure that out is there's a code right in here. This one says B063, and then on the the other half, it's A063. So I made sure to figure that out by, luckily, there was one, I caught one glimpse of this in my video, and I didn't have to like remove this first before I ordered the parts. So I got lucky there by having my own video. So I was able to order the correct one, A063. They have them all, or can get them all. And in, you know, if Central Valve Body doesn't have it, you can always send yours in, and they'll send it back. I paid, I think, $600 plus shipping, and then a core fee as well. I think it was $30 shipping and then a $100 core fee. So it was like $730. I'm going to ship the old one back and get $100 back. But the $30 includes the return shipping. So that's it. That's what you do. And just be aware that, make sure you're getting the correct valve body. I mean, you can go with a Chinese rebuild if you do have that generation 1, you know, take your chances if you don't mind doing the work again if there turns out to be problems. I wouldn't be surprised if there are problems. The one that I got, this valve body that I got from Central Valve Body is, they test them, okay? And I can tell because the thing was still dripping with oil, and they wrap it really good, you know, and they put an oil absorbent sheet on it and then wrap it in plastic and all that stuff. The one that I got from China was not like that. It didn't have, you know, I wasn't sure if it was tested or not. So they could just be rebuilding those, throwing them back together and shipping them out. Anyway, I'm gonna swap these components over and swap the solenoids, get the new one in the car and see if it works. I'm pretty sure it will, because they test them. So I just finished swapping the solenoids over. I found something that didn't make me happy. This one was not cleaned in the little screens right here. The rest of them were cleaned. That's what it looks like when it's clean. This one wasn't cleaned, and I'm gonna be having words with the rebuilder, because dude, come on. How did that happen? Anyway, it never hurts to double check someone's work, you know, it's just, sometimes somebody misses something. So I also had issues just now getting the Mechatronic unit in place. There's a stud right here and then right here. See these two studs right here? They go into holes on the valve body, and I had issues with alignment on those. And in order to fix that, I had to loosen all the screws on the top side, because basically there's a top side and a low side and then a plate in the center. And so the alignment of all of the holes through all of those was not perfect. So I don't know, maybe they don't have a Mechatronic unit there to kind of make sure that that alignment is good. Because, you know, they're just rebuilding all the cores and stuff. So I get that. I suppose I'm not so upset about that, but that might be something that you'll run into on every unit, every rebuilt unit. So that's how you fix that, is you gotta loosen the bolts, get the new Mechatronic unit in, and then you can tighten all the bolts down, which is what I will do. Also, before you bolt this thing down, make sure that the selector valve, the gear selector valve, is aligned with this slider thing right here. So I put the torque for all of these bolts at 10 Newton meters because they're 6mm bolts. I hope that's the right one. If not, I'll put it across the screen, but 10 seem to be fine. So yeah, all done now and ready to go back on the car. So I just got done filling up the car with transmission fluid, and it's raining out. And I just got this car wash, so I'm not going for a test drive right now. It'll have to wait. In the meantime though, we do have to reset the adaptations on this transmission. So actually, I think it's in the main menu. Special function. Drive. What is it? Transmission. Service function, display and reset adaptation values. This is the one for the transmission, I remember. Yep. Now tested. Start communication. Okay. Reset adaptation values. 2. Continue. Existing values, rapid fill times. Next. Okay. Okay. Done. Everything's 0. End function. Cool. All right, let's go check for, let's check for codes everywhere. Oops. We'll do one of these. ECM, TCM. I knew there was a fault in that TCM. You know why? What I think it is because when I was filling the transmission, I went to start the car and then it wouldn't start, and I realized it's because I hadn't plugged the transmission in. So that's where all these codes are from. Yeah, basically tons of stuff related to that. So I think we'll just clear everything. See what comes back. All right, well, nothing left. Well, okay, that was clearing. Well, short circuit fault. Yeah, that's obviously that's a different thing. Okay, I will start the car, run it again, see what comes back, and blah, blah, blah. I wonder why that thing keeps coming back as a code. That's just so stupid. I think terminal 15 is just the ignition circuit. All right, well that's pretty good. That's the only thing that came up. So far, no fuel pump plausibility code. Let's read those again. Yeah, very good, very good. So obviously I need to do a big test drive and all that stuff. I'll do that in an hour after the rain clears up. So it's been a couple of weeks since I installed the transmission. I wanted to make sure that I drove it for a good long time and got a real feel for how the car is working now. And it's definitely fixed now, for sure. It's much better to drive this car now. It's much more enjoyable. Before it was like, you know, the shifts, especially between first and second, like that shift took a good long second, you know? If I were to try to race somebody, for sure, they would just be, you know, taken off while I'm waiting for that first to second shift. It was, you know, it was kind of noticeable. And then the second to third shift, it was a little faster, but still slow. Now it's perfect. It's good. The car drives like it should. So did I need to do this ultimately? No. The car was fine. It was working. It was driving. Another person who's not as much of a, you know, who's not like me, they probably would have just lived with it. But I really want it to be perfect. So for me, this was the right thing. This was the right thing to do. I'm fine with spending, what was it, $630 ultimately to get this fixed. I'm fine with that. If you can't afford that, I totally understand. If you want to take your chances with eBay, that's fine. But again, make sure that, you know, you have the Generation 1 valve body if you're going to go that way. I don't think that any of the E90s used that valve body, but I don't know. I haven't seen what the 2006 models have as far as valve bodies. The 2006 model was a 325 and the 330. They used different engines. And I guess that brings us into central valve bodies. You know, we did have the solenoid that wasn't cleaned. I'm just going to chalk that up to, you know, somebody making a mistake. You know, everybody makes mistakes. I did contact them and they offered to send me another solenoid, and I said no because I'm switching the other ones over. So it wasn't that big of a deal, and I'm all right with it because they do test the valve bodies. So I was all right with throwing it in, and it is working fine. So I'm fine with it. I've had good luck with them in the past. I've bought other valve bodies from them. Like I mentioned, there was a Nissan that I did, and then on my E46, I bought a valve body for that thing, and it's been working just fine ever since. So I'm fine with it, and I still will continue to recommend them. I'm ultimately happy with that I did this, and you know, yeah, it's all great now. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to see more. I'm the 50s Kid. Thanks a lot for watching.